Have you ever heard of South Galveston? Have you ever heard the name of
I
that?
absolutely have heard of
Yeah.
South Galveston, yeah. The area that we call Jenkins Bayou, because the town of South Galveston is actually easiest to see out there. And the town of South Galveston was laid out in the prairie area that is on the west side of our park, the big open expansion that was between us and Jamaica Beach. There's still some trails and areas out there that you can hike that are very straight lines, and you're like, why would a park, most of the time they're meandering? Well, the reason is we're following old road beds that were the town of South Galveston. There was multiple areas where there was businesses and houses laid out on those streets. The end of Park Road 66, there was supposed to be a very large hotel that sat out there. What we have now as a state park almost wasn't.
Now, while walking on these trails at Galveston Island State Park today, you may be wondering what happened to South Galveston. Why is there no city of South Galveston on this tract of land today? Well, the South Galveston Land Company kind of hit trouble a little bit early. Now, the elevation of this land is extremely low. Galveston Bay is just right over there. I'm probably at only 1 or 2 feet above sea level where I'm standing, where this would pretty much be the center of South Galveston. Advertisements for South Galveston were pushed and promoted across the country. They were essentially promotions for investors. Now, as you can imagine, back in the 1890s, it was pretty difficult to get people to buy land on the west end of Galveston Island, as there was really nothing there yet. How would you get your groceries? How would you get to work? Even if you had the convenience of riding a train for 10 miles to Galveston, would you do that? It might be easy for us to say yes today, as many of us commute to and from Houston to go to work every day. But back then, that wasn't so much the case. The South Galveston Land Company didn't have trouble selling the shares to invest in the property. Where they had the trouble was selling the lots. South Galveston was set to have a premier hotel and even zoological gardens right near Lake Como. That hotel was never built. The South Galveston Land Company ran into trouble funding their operations and couldn't quite get the investment they were looking for. So growth of South Galveston was quite slow through the 1890s. And as you may have guessed, what brought the end to development at South Galveston was the 1900 storm on September 8th, 1900, striking Galveston and killing over 6,000 people and wiping out thousands of buildings. And just looking at the elevation out here today, you can only imagine that the water was completely covering this side of the island. And in my research, I can find very few references to South Galveston after 1900.